All right, we're going to get back started. So how's everybody feeling? Exhausted? Your head's full? Are you cold or hot? But depends how old you are, whether you're cold or hot. Are you excited? Good. So we're gonna finish at 4 because that's what we promised to do. So Jackie and I are gonna motor through the last 40 minutes, and then you were gonna say something. Okay. So this very last segment is what do I do tomorrow? Okay, so we've come to this workshop, we've got some ideas, we've got a vision. All of you sound like your homes are doing something that you feel good about, but you've got a vision maybe of how you might do some things more or a bit differently, and how do we move forward. So this last little bit is how to go back and work on developing the palliative care program in your home. Not to suggest that you're starting from scratch, because developing is a verb, a process, and particularly about what your role is as a personal support worker in that process. Because I can tell you that Jackie McDonald and her cohort, her colleagues in the long-term care homes that we worked in were absolutely instrumental in the success of developing the palliative care programs. It would not have happened without Jackie, and you can do this too, because what do we know about making change in an organization? Well, one person, any one of you here in the room, cannot do it alone. If several of you here are here from one home, that's a really good thing. Long ago, I learned the Noah's Ark principle. Try at least to have 2 by 2. And if you've got more, that's better, because then you really feel like you have someone who understands and has had a common experience. And what I've learned to be successful in this is you've got to have bottom up, and that is the grassroots people, and you are the grassroots, but you also have to have top down, because there's certain things that you need management, endorsement, and support. And the real challenge is that bottom up and top down have to meet. So these are the things that we've learned from our work are important. If you want to change your home to have a more palliative approach, a more formalized, systematic palliative care team, you need a sponsor for that change, and that sponsor needs to be the senior manager in your long-term care home. They have to endorse it, they have to support it. Somebody earlier talked to me about a senior manager not really appreciating the importance of it, thinking what we were doing is good enough as it is. And I think just over time demonstrating to that senior manager the benefits of doing a few things differently, because there are a lot of things you can do differently on the ground that don't require policy change. But at a certain point, you're going to have to get the top people, and demonstrating the benefits and having a few families come in and say, boy, was our experience with your staff around the end of life of my mother, father, brother, sister ever supportive and positive? Those are the kinds of feedback that are really going to get your managers on board to sponsor change. When we developed the palliative care program too, we also needed a facilitator to really work with the team. And usually it was the care coordinator, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a social worker. It could be a PSW. Somebody has to facilitate. Then the PSW lead, and in our case it was Jackie, was critically important. And Jackie's going to talk a lot about what her role was, so I'm not going to go into it. And then you need a team, because you need that interdisciplinary group to really champion and sustain the change. The change process is not going to happen overnight. And some of you talked about seeing the gradual development of palliative care in your home. In our experience, it probably will take a home who works at it about 3 years to really fully implement a formalized palliative care program, because it's not as simple as implementing one form or getting a pamphlet or painting the room or getting a butterfly. It's a way, remember, it's a way of thinking. It's a way of understanding the job that you do, care for life, right to the end of life, and infusing that culture and that philosophy, that resident-centered care that you pride yourself in, right to the end of life. And it will not happen overnight, so I only say that so you don't get discouraged. So how we went about it is with the help of our sponsor, the manager. We launched the program as an organizational priority. All the staff were invited one day to kind of drop into the common room. We had a couple of presentations, coffee, talked about what it was that we were hoping to accomplish in developing this palliative care, and really launched it as an organization-wide initiative. And we then, from that group, were able to identify who we would invite to be part of this interprofessional palliative care resource team that would build the program. And I want to emphasize that this interprofessional palliative care resource team is not like a typical clinical palliative care team, because everybody in long-term care does palliative care. Everybody does it. But what this resource team does is it champions the change, and it provides leadership. So we'll talk about that. We took these individuals who had volunteered, and we had a retreat with them. And in the retreat, they identified what their vision was for the palliative care program, what was a good death for them in their facility, and what is it that they really wanted to accomplish. And we did things like process mapping. How many of you have ever done process mapping in your home? It's a Health Quality Ontario process where you look at the resident's journey, and often it's done doing things like, where did we lose the laundry? But in this case, it's a little bit different, because what we did was we sat all the staff down, people from different disciplines, and we diagrammed the resident's journey from admission right through to death. And you know my little bubbles, little points, what happens around admission that sets the stage for families to know that you will care for them for the rest of their life? What happens, or what doesn't happen that you would like to happen? And if you want something to happen, who's going to do it? You know, and really kind of drill down. Because remember my example where everybody thought talking to the family was important, but nobody felt comfortable about it, and everybody said, but it's not my job anyway. You know, you've got to decide whose job is it to do certain things. Who's going to identify when that transition occurs, where the goals of care are starting to shift and you want to have a palliative care conference? Who's going to do that? So we process that all up in this process mapping. Then the team, and you talked so much about this, and every home has identified this, wanting education. And education for personal support workers, the registered staff, the allied health providers, dietary, life enrichment or recreation, your volunteers. If you want a home-wide culture that supports that palliative approach, everybody has to be on board. Everybody has to be on board. And so we sat down and we created an education plan with a wide variety of things. Some of it was more kind of a formalized course, as Jackie described, the palliative care for frontline workers, but we also did little in-services. We had huddles within the home. One of the registered nurses, for example, did training on the palliative performance scale. So we did all kinds of different things to really support the staff in their learning goals. And then on your table, one of the things I'm confident that you have is a document that looks like this. And it's called the Self-Assessment Checklist. And what works really, really well is if your interprofessional team sits down with this self-assessment checklist. Oh, I've got some more here. Anybody not have one? Marg, would you? So there's three things. Marg, put your hand up. Marg will come around. There's three things that you need in your home to make it successful. You need the organizational structures in place to support your work. And those have to do with formalizing the palliative care program, writing down what it is that families can expect to get in the way of care in the home, writing down what the roles of the different disciplines are in providing palliative care, and then acknowledging the importance of having a palliative care team and giving you time to meet and plan and to provide you opportunities for education and to help you form partnerships with community organizations that can come in and support you in your work. Groups like hospice volunteers, pain and symptom management consultants, palliative care specialty nurses. The Alzheimer's Society has some excellent education around what to expect around end-of-life care. End-of-life care networks are all over Ontario. So really, don't think of yourself as isolated from all of the other palliative care resources that are available to you in your community. And so what teams can do is you can take this checklist and you run through it and you say, well, yeah, we've got that, or no, we don't have that, or we're in development with that. And so you go through the checklist, and it's not to evaluate you in terms of being good or bad. It's to give you an idea what your starting point is. What do you have to build on? And if you turn the page, the next set of things are the processes of care. So do you do advanced care planning regularly? How do you do advanced care planning? How do you assess when a client would benefit by palliative care? Do you use the palliative performance scale? Do you specially consider the needs of a resident with dementia? Do you manage your physical environment to maximize privacy? And I say maximize privacy. We can't guarantee privacy in some of the setups that we have. So the idea is to just go through this and look at what you're doing in the home right now that you can build on. And then where are some of the most significant gaps in your home that would really be important to fill if you're going to have a full palliative care program. And then the last sheet looks at performance or outcome measures. And in quality improvement, that's that feedback loop. How do we really know if we're doing a good job? And some of the things you can do is after you implement your program, a year later you can go back and do another process map and compare it with that first one you did before you started to see where you filled in different changes. You can do satisfaction surveys with the family or satisfaction surveys with the staff. You can do a chart review and look at how well pain is being documented and whether people are following through. So you can sit down as a home and as a team and say, well, how can we really monitor how effectively we're able to do this? How many people have taken palliative care education and that sort of thing. So this is intended to be a jumping off point for you and your home, and it also begins to build that team and build a common understanding of what it is that people want to do. And then you can start looking at the different innovations. We've talked about many of the innovations that are available through our project in this toolkit that's all available free online or in print if your home wants to order it. Deb Parker showed you a video. She too has a website and all kinds of resources that she talked about, that case conferencing video. That video we showed you called Dying from Care, it's all on the web. It's all free, downloadable. Canadian Virtual Hospice, fabulous resource. So decide what you need to do and then get your community partners to help you. We had so much wonderful support from our regional pain and symptom management consultants. How many of you know if you have a pain and symptom management consultant that comes into your home? Well, I'll tell you that there is a pain and symptom management consultant in your area, and if they don't come into your home, you should pick up the phone and invite them to come over, because our pain and symptom management consultant did chart reviews and consulted. Doesn't cost your home any money. These people are paid for by the Ministry of Health, and they're available to go in and help people in long-term care. I talked about our nurse practitioner that came in. We got her on board right off the bat, and she was excellent to help the staff with things that were particularly challenging, like having conversations with some of the families that were really, really struggling. And then we evaluated everything. We just used the basic quality improvement process that the Plan, Do, Study, Act. With that comfort care bag that Jackie talked about, it was an idea. The PSW said, wouldn't it be a great idea to have this bag that we could put personal things in, information, and we could give it to families at the bedside. And we said, okay, let's try it. And then, well, what will we put in the bag? Well, we'll try this. And we gave the bag a couple times, and then, okay, well, I think we'll want to add this. Or, what will we say? And so it was kind of a trial and error process where they practiced with the bag until they felt they got it right. And the families were really happy with it, and the staff were really happy with it, and they felt like they were getting really, really good feedback. But that took, 6 or 8 cycles of the Plan, Do, Study, Act in order to do that. So, and I'm sure you have access to someone who can help you with quality improvement, because it's the same kind of thing you would do. And then once you decide what are some of the things you want to do, and you may use any of the innovations that we've developed and they may work for you, or you may say, well, that's mostly how we would like to do it, but we'd like to tweak it up a little bit. We'd like to change it a bit. That's okay. Make it your own. Okay? Take it as an idea, a starting point, adapt it, but then you have to disseminate all over your home to all the people with the butterfly indicator that Jackie talked about that is put on the door of a resident who has recently died. All the staff in the home had to be trained. Maintenance, dietary, housekeeping, PSWs, nursing, because everybody has to know. I talked about the food for thought pamphlet. Well, everybody had to know where it was and how to access it. So if it came up, the families, could easily be given it. And then once we got sort of this group of innovations, so we have over 40 resources in here. There is no way that you're going to do 40 resources. No way. I would say pick 3. Okay, pick the 3 that feel most important to you to get your home moving, and do those. Because you know what? One thing leads to another. And if you start that momentum, it will work. And then after you get it going, we did some sustainability meetings with the managers. And I was really like a dog with a bone with those managers, I'll tell you. And they committed themselves to monthly meetings with the palliative care resource team to really help them identify, and really support some of the barriers that they were feeling might be getting in their way. And that's going to be the key to the sustainability, is to have the top and the bottom working together. And then lastly, celebrating your success. But I will remind you that this took 3 years. Okay? So this is all the things I've already said. So in year 1, this is what we did. We used that self-assessment. In year 2, we did the education and the interventions. The personal support worker was instrumental in these monthly meetings with the managers. And I think Jackie would agree with me that you never really met with the managers to that degree before this project. In fact, Jackie went and met with the president of St. Joseph's Care Group, who talked to her about how important the work that they were doing. And so it really broke down those barriers. So who's on your resource team? Everybody in the home. And the nurses, the PSWs, the dietary, housekeeping, administration. The RI coordinator is very, very important because there is a checkoff box on the RI instrument that says this person is end-of-life care and is expected to die within 6 months. And very interestingly, that box hardly ever gets checked off. About 10% of the time residents die in long-term care has that box been checked off. And we're not communicating to the data people how much end-of-life care you're really doing if we're not checking that box off. because your work is invisible. So the resource team can organize itself. You can have, like any other group, terms of reference, pick your focus, meet every month. And at the beginning, with the manager's support, the teams met more often just to kind of get going and get the ball rolling. But on a sustainable basis, they met for about an hour once a month. What did the team do? I said it wasn't a clinical team. Everybody does palliative care, but they mentored other people on the staff. They provided emotional support, helped people understand what palliative care was, became the peer-led debriefers, as Jackie demonstrated, shared a lot of educational opportunities and really promoted and encouraged the staff. Help the managers develop policies and guidelines, because when we first started, interestingly enough, there was no formalized policy or guidelines about palliative care. Even though residents died in the home and were being cared for, when I asked them, could I see your policy, there wasn't one. You had a question?
So families, did they come in at the end of this whole process? They weren't ever part of this?
They weren't part of developing the program. They were part of our initial assessment. So we talked to families in the beginning about what were their issues, needs, concerns, and then we fed that information into the staff process, because we feel that it's the job of the home to figure out.
Part of this then? Is that part of this process? If it's going to be started in a home? Somehow?
If it's going to be, that's a really, really excellent point. And you probably want to go to your family council right at the beginning and involve them. I really appreciate that comment. So thank you for that. So the team is really a champion team, a change champion team for palliative care. Some of the things our teams really had to spend a lot of time struggling with were things like language. How do we help staff understand what palliative care and end-of-life care are? And these are all the community partners that we drew on to come in. And the community partners, I've talked quite a bit about how they helped us, so I'm not going to repeat myself. And why PSWs? This is a diagram from the Ontario Long-Term Care Home Innovation Expert Panel document showing the staffing in long-term care, and each one of these little blue guys is 1,000 PSWs in the Ontario long-term care system. And when you compare it just numerically with the number of RPNs and RNs, you can realize how important it is for your colleagues to get on board. So I'm going to turn it over to Jackie now, who's going to speak about the PSW lead role specifically. Here, do you want? Oh, you've got.
Okay, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit really quickly about what is a PSW lead. So a PSW lead is a personal support worker who assists in the development and promotion of home-specific programs. They promote education and provide support to families and to the staff. A PSW lead has a vision for improving, enhancing, and developing the programs in long-term care homes. They possess a drive, a passion, and a commitment to achieve goals within the home, as well as necessary skills to work towards achieving these goals. A PSW lead welcomes challenges, and there are many, many challenges that you will come across. We move towards despite obstacles. We have confidence to advocate and at the best interests of the residents, and to work towards improving existing policies and procedures. The lead must also be an individual that others respect, trust, and feel comfortable with. We must be easy to talk to and have effective listening skills. A PSW lead is someone who is willing to educate themselves. And while completing all these roles, the PSW lead will need to facilitate, communicate, support, advocate, promote, create, mentor, and educate. That's what a PSW lead is. It's someone who walks the walk and talks the talk. A PSW lead directs, keeps tasks and activities on the right track, and to maintain the momentum until completion. We coach. We need to challenge and to stimulate and guide our coworkers. We support. We offer positive feedback. We ask for feedback. We disclose our feelings and never, ever be afraid to ask what is wrong. Supporting includes being able to recognize burnout in your coworkers. You offer strategies on how to help. A lead fosters self-care in their coworkers. There has to be a reassurance that staff are supported and valued. When staff have experienced the feeling of self-confidence and pride, it inspires them to help and support others. Then together, we can make a difference. We delegate. We find those special things that other coworkers have, and we get them on board doing special jobs to, an example is I have a PSW that is very quiet, and she likes to stay in the background. Well, I find out she's really awesome at taking notes. So she's at every palliative care team meeting, and she does our notes, and she makes the minutes up every month. So what would be your personal reason to get involved? For me, it was a bad death. I experienced a really bad death when I first started working in the home, and I couldn't believe that this went on. This woman cried, and they could not manage her pain. She just screamed and screamed and screamed for her mother, and it was horrible. And I knew then and there that we had to do something. It had to be better. It couldn't be any worse than that. And so that was my start. That was what I really held on to all this time. I've been there 11 years. I've never seen something like that since. And I really do hope that I never see that again. My heart goes out to that woman still to this day. And even though we all did everything we could, something was obviously missing. So with everything that we've done over the last 5 years, it's really come a long ways. And I'm really proud of my home. I'm really proud of my coworkers, the university, that what they've given us with doing this project. It's been an incredible experience. Whoops. So here are some characteristics of some leads. These are some pretty awesome words, and you will never find one person that is all of those. That's why you must look at your coworkers and you find the ones that have these words in them, and you get them going. And it takes one person just to start, and next thing you know, you've got your team and you've got that support from each other, and you can do it. And just by being here, some of the questions that I've heard you guys talk about, some of the stories, we do have leads right in here. And you go home, you go into your home, and you can really make that difference. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everybody. I wish I could have been here earlier today. My name is Candace Chartier, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Ontario Long-Term Care Association. It warms my heart to see this room as crowded as it is today, and I hope everybody was as comfortable as possible. I just want to thank you for attending, and I want to thank the workshop leads and presenters, Dr. Mary Lou Kelley, Dr. Deborah Parker, Mark McKee, and Jackie McDonald. Thank you to our guest blogger, Kathy Kastner, for attending, and thank the co-presenters of this session, OPSWA, Ontario Personal Support Worker Association, Quality Palliative Care and Long-Term Care, Lakehead University Center for Education and Research in Aging and Health, and the Alzheimer's Knowledge Exchange. And I also want to thank Centric, Cardinal Health, and SCA Personal Care for doing this today. I experienced a bad death as well, and my bad death was last year. I lost my sister to cancer. And it's still really hard to talk about it, but what the big eye-opener was, I grew up in long-term care. I started with Omni Healthcare in 1995 as an RN. I became the clinical care coordinator, the director of care, the administrator, and until I took this role at the Ontario Long-Term Care Association, I was the chief operating officer for Omni Healthcare. Being in that position, I got to do a lot of things, and I got to roll out a lot of things in the homes. And one of the best things I did was roll out PSW COPS. PSW COPS is a PSW communities of practice in every home, where the PSWs make the decisions, do the brainstorming, and you tell the management what that home needs in certain areas. I think every home in this province should have one because you're the eyes and ears out on the floor. I've worked in healthcare. I've seen a lot of deaths and dying of people that were close to me, but never a family member. And my sister, 2 months before she died, it got care in the community, and there were so many gaps that 2 months before she died, I had to tell her what palliative care was. I had to tell her she was dying, and I had to tell my whole family she was dying. Somehow, through her care pathway of 9 months after having her kidney removed full of cancer, she still didn't get it, and the caregivers didn't get it. My mom didn't get it, my siblings didn't get it. With a family of 8, and with one nurse in the family, it was all on me. But now I'm at a provincial table, and this is something that's very passionate to me. So do what you're doing, keep what you're doing. With the shift to the community, I have grave concerns that there's going to be gaps and people are going to die the wrong way. I'd never, ever thought that one day I would wish my sister to come to the hospital. But the palliative care unit in the hospital had it right. They had it down pat, and at least I know she died in comfort. So kudos to all of you for being here today, and keep on going and keep learning more and keep enhancing the residents' lives. Thank you.
Lovely words.